So I'm about 4 minutes late, but I'm actually like a couple days and 4 minutes late. But anyways, this is my Patreon exclusive Wednesday live for October. We're doing it on the 8th instead of on the 1st because the first Wednesday of October was actually the 1st, and it completely took me by surprise because I was working on my horoscopes and trying to get those done, which take me so long to do. It takes me more time than I ever think that it should, because you know, you get the information, like you get the cards and you get the tarot, or you get the tarot and you get the astrology, but then it's like it takes a minute for that insight to sink in and like figure out, okay, like what am I actually saying with this stuff? And anyways, so I've decided that I'm going to start working on November's horoscopes like now, so that I can just do one a day and have plenty of time to like let the muses speak as they will. Anyway, okay, so these are, this is Wednesday, October 8th. It is Wednesday's day, Jupiter's hour, which is really great for us for learning about astrology and tarot and asking questions and getting answers that are not incredibly restrictive and limiting, which they would have been an hour before, because before that it was Saturn's hour as I was diligently preparing, and now it is Jupiter's hour as we are able to come together and find some answers. Also, yay, Cursar's here, hello. Okay, so let me just get this out of the way really quick. These Patreon exclusive lives are invite only. They go out to everybody who's on my YouTube live list tier and on, so that's $8 or more, gets invited to these lives where you can come and ask any questions you want to me or to the cards, and then we answer them, and then the videos go up publicly for both Patreon first and then YouTube significantly after, for people who might want to watch and like, I don't know, just for fun, like a podcasty thing or whatever. But if you would like to be invited to these lives and ask questions, then please do sign up for my Patreon tier. So I will post the link in the YouTube video. But anyway, I'm trying to think if there are any updates specifically that I should let you guys know before we get started here. Horoscopes are officially out. I'm going to write the other ones. I swear, I'm going to start either today or tomorrow. I haven't started already because I've been drawing. Every time after I'm done with the horoscopes, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so over writing. I never want to communicate again except through art. I'm going to draw, and that's it. So I did allow myself a little bit of time. My commissions are now currently open. I have a couple, I think I have like 8 availabilities left. So there's information about that pinned publicly on my Patreon. So you can check that out if you want. And yeah, okay, without further ado, I guess let's get started. Hi, Faye. Oh, I'm so happy you're here. That's awesome. Always good to have more people here. So since we have people, you guys want to pick a deck? And then we'll go from there. I'm going to raise this a little bit. Camera angles are not my forte, it turns out. There we go. Okay. All right, so do you guys want to ask questions with the Nameless One, the Children of Ostara, or the Children of Litha? Oh, update. Cursar has an update from last week. The reading went well, like predicted. Oh, good. I'm so glad. Was it very intense? Was there like secrets spilt? It seemed like from the reading it was going to be maybe a little bit like, I don't know, watery and kind of like, well, because the Seven of Cups was there. Seven of Cups is always so interesting because it's hard to know if it's just like intimate and intense and nitty gritty, or if it's kind of like delusional, imaginary, like think there are options here, but it's like, are they good or are they bad? Cursor says, yeah, it's heartfelt and sweet. Oh, that's good. I'm so glad. Well, you did get the Two of Cups upright, so that does kind of set the overall tone as being like generally very pleasant, and like people are seeing eye to eye and being able to exchange hearts more fully and more easily. But you know, you're also so nice and charming, so why wouldn't it go that way for you, right? We'd be surprised if the tarot said anything else. Okay, so if you guys don't have a preference, I guess the deck I'll use, I guess we'll use Ostara. And if you guys have any questions, so first I'm going to start off by asking Mercury what he thinks. It is Mercury's day after all. We should let him have his say, or their say. I really have been trying to use they, them more with Mercury, because I do feel like traditionally Mercury is like the most non-binary or all binaries of all things. Like he's, you know, literally can't even in the day sect or in the night sect, depending on if he's before or in front of the sun, right? Everything's like, it depends with Mercury. It's just the mood. So I've been trying to refer to them as they, them, but it's a hard habit to get into because all of the sources are always saying he all the time. But anyway, and honestly, okay, so there's been like this debate a little bit happening in modern astrology about trying to make like the planetary representation more gender inclusive. And so people are wondering like, hey, so the day chart, right? The day sect, generally the day is associated with the sun. It's like so-called masculine or like projective energies, all of that. It's got the sun and Saturn and the sun, Saturn, and Jupiter there, and those are all dudes. And so then in the night sect, you have, it's supposed to be more feminine. It's led by the moon. You have Venus, moon, and Mars. And some people have been saying that, oh, like, you know, we should like make Saturn feminine because I'm not sure what the argument is, to be honest. Because like structure, I think structure and boundary and how like the womb holds structure and boundary. But in my opinion, it's more of a like a nurturing kind of a thing and not like Saturnian's like strict isolation. Like literally, you know, the barriers that mother creates are for your like inclusion and protection and overall nurturing. It's very Cancerian because it's very much the shell that protects the vulnerabilities, right? It's not like Saturn building walls to keep out people, even if it starves entire populations, or like trying to trying to corrupt or to restrict or to whatever. So I don't really like that argument. I think if we're going to make one of the traditional planets more feminine, it should absolutely be Mars. Because first of all, Mars is in the night sect. So that would make all of the night sect planets quote unquote feminine and all of the day sect planets quote unquote masculine. And I've talked about this in my other like Acanthus and Crow video. And it might surprise people because they were like, oh, Mars is so manly and aggression and war. But we have a huge history in collective consciousness of female, feminine warrior archetypes. Not to mention like, you know, the Amazons or Athena or even Aphrodite Aria, which literally means Aphrodite the warlike and was one of the aspects worshipped in Sparta. We have the Gorgon, we have Medusa, we have like crazy snake ladies that eat you alive. Like there's like harpies. We have so much feminine wrath, like unbridled feminine wrath in our collective culture, like history, the zeitgeist, right? Just in there. And then we also have like the fact that Mars and the moon have this very interesting like mutual fall relationship. And it really reminds me of like the vengeful mother, the vindictive mother, the jealous mother, the overprotective mother. Like there's nobody will, debate like, oh yeah, bears are the most dangerous when it's a mama bear protecting her cubs, right? But it's also like you can be very destructive to your children by being like overly nurturing or overly aggressive or whatever. So anyway, so my 2 cents that nobody asked me is that we should make Femme Mars because, literally Aphrodite Aria is basically like Femme Mars already. I think we should bring her back. Or else they could just all be they, them, because they all have a, diurnal masculine domicile and a feminine nocturnal domicile, with the exception of the sun and the moon, which are supposed to be like the exact primordial, like distinct, so-called masculine, so-called feminine. So they can all be they, them, with the exception of the sun and the moon. Or my vote would be to make Mars feminine. I think it makes a lot of sense. I have a lot of feminine rage. It happens. It's a thing. Anyway, so that's those are my 2 cents on the matter. Literally nobody asked. Let's ask Mercury, not necessarily about that, but so Mercury, whose day it is, fill us with your knowledge, with your wisdom. What is going on with you? What do you think? What do you see? What is important for you to say to us today? Okay. So, this is really funny because, so as I was setting up everything and it was Saturn's hour, I was thinking like, I wonder if the live is gonna like be during Saturn's hour, because when I have been doing these lives and I've been tracking that kind of thing, I've noticed that planets, when it's Saturn's hour, tend to take a way more pessimistic, calm, like just Saturnian like perspective on things. Like I once did a live where the moon was Saturn's hour, and it was so like emotional, but in an isolated, fatigued, like I'm tired kind of a way. And it's funny because the Saturn hour shifted like mid live for that. It started being like it was something else, and then it shifted when it was Saturn's hour, and I was like, that's so interesting. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's Jupiter's hour now, and we have the Ten of Cups, which is probably one of the most like happy kind of cards, generally speaking, at least on the surface level. This is the Mars ruled decan of Pisces. Pisces is Jupiter ruled, so that's kind of funny. Anyway, so we started the reading with the Knight of Pentacles, and so the Knight of Pentacles, let's talk a little bit about him for a minute. I'm a really big fan of using the court cards to represent people who are not you, because the entire deck can kind of be you, and court cards are very uniquely situated to represent characters that come in and go out of your life. So even though I think it is true that court cards can represent certain facets of yourself, if you're reading for yourself, or certain facets of your client, if you're reading for your client, I think we should first look at the people around you or the client or whoever you're reading for and see if we can identify one of them as this character. Because, you know, it's true that the people that we interact with cause us to have slightly different personas or slightly different masks to deal with them. So, you know, we often will hear like people's, we'll hear like voices in our heads, right? Like a response to something. And then a minute later be like, oh, that sounded like my mom, or that's something, you know, my friend would say, or this is something my sister told me, right? So it's true that the people in our lives do impact how we see the world and how we see ourselves, you know, as above, so below. So like it could be you're dealing with them. It could be you're having a thought that is something that they implanted in you or that they inspired in you, or a facet that you put on for them. So all of that is true, but primarily I like to focus on court cards as being other people around you. So when we go from there, what are knights' role in hierarchy? Okay, well, a knight quests on behalf of a higher patron, the king, the queen, princess, what have you. Knights go on quests, they solve problems, they slay dragons, conquer obstacles, they clear the path, they, you know, ideally participate in chivalry and help people, people who are unable to do the work themselves. And so how I read knight cards in tarot is that this is a person who is problem solving on behalf of someone else, somebody who is helping to go solve a problem, solve a quest, do something for you, basically. Because this is the Knight of Pentacles, right? Because the next layer then is the suit. So Pentacles is about earth, it's material, it's money, finances, time, labor, it's like your physical body, your food, right? It's all of those material, physical resources. So the Knight of Pentacles is therefore somebody who solves a material problem. This could be somebody you call to like repair your fridge, for example, or repair your car or something like that. This could be somebody you call to tow your car. Usually when I see the Knight of Pentacles, I see somebody who's working for coin, but not always. Sometimes they're just doing a physical thing for you, right? Like if my husband were, like, let's say I was gardening and then there was like a giant stump in the yard I couldn't move, I'd be like, hey, husband, come move this giant stump. Like he would be doing the Knight of Pentacles because he would be doing physical labor on my behalf. So that's kind of the vibe we get. And also it's important to note that Earth is stable and it is steady. It oftentimes represents somebody who does something the tried and true traditional way, somebody who solves a material problem and they do it one task at a time, make sure it's done, look behind you, cover your bases before you go forward, right? This is somebody who's more traditional, who's learned to do it a certain way, who's more inclined to continue doing it that way. So if we had gotten this card reversed, you would say somebody who's like, okay, so they're trying to solve a material problem, but they keep coming at it from the same way and nothing's working. Because this card is upright, we say things like, okay, so you know, they're doing slow, steady, grounded labor. They're probably going to be successful. They'll get it done. And, you know, it's basically, it's steady. It's what you expect, right? Somebody's going to solve a material problem and the outcome will be something that you expect. And then we get these two cards, which is a little bit less straightforward. So we have people who are working hard to get something done in the material world. And I really want to skip straight to the Ten of Cups, but we won't do that. We'll do it in order because I think that would ultimately be better. But so this is Judgment. Judgment is sometimes, okay, how do I say this? The astrological association with the Judgment card is a bit nuanced. First of all, it used to represent the primordial essence of fire. way back in Arthur Waite's day, right? When the RWS style deck first came out, that's what it was designed to represent. However, Pluto is a thing, and it's a thing that they didn't know about at that time. So since then, people who are into tarot and into astrology have associated Pluto with the Judgment card. I really like this because Judgment definitely has notes of like initiation, things that, you go into the shadow world and you come out forever changed, information that like totally changes your idea about how life operates, or a decision that does that, right? It's being on the precipice. Judgment is the second to last card, right? After Judgment is the World, and the World is ruled by Saturn, and that kind of is like, well, it is what it is, right? We know how it turned out. Frodo didn't quite throw the ring in the fire, but it ultimately did get in there, and then he sailed on his little ship with the elves or whatever. Like, we know how the stories end. Okay, now next book, right? So that's the World's energy. It's just how things are, the cycles of completion and whatever stage that they're in. So Judgment is kind of like that final moment before we switch over to something else, before we like get something done. And it can be stressful. A lot of the time I see Judgment coming in as literally like the call to action, right? This is something that happens in narrative, but it's also something that happens in real life. But the call to action is like the initiating thing that makes the hero do a thing, right? So in Lord of the Rings, for Frodo, it was like getting the ring and being like, go, you have to go take the ring to whatever. And I don't know, or you could even argue that it was what's his face? His uncle, Bilbo, is that his name? Like giving Gandalf the ring and then Gandalf giving it to Frodo. And it's really interesting because very often we have the call is initially refused, and that then causes something drastic to happen, which forces the hero to go into action. So, for example, in Star Wars, right, Luke doesn't want to go, but then his aunt and uncle's like farm thing where he's all sipping blue milk. Anyway, his aunt and uncle's farmland thing gets totally destroyed by like the Imperial soldiers, I think it is. So then he has to go, right? He doesn't want to leave, but then he has to start his journey because there's nothing for him here anymore. And, it's a whole big thing. So that's usually what we see in life too, right? We know that there's some need that we have to do. There's some final step we have to take, or there's a journey we have to, either end or start. And it's really daunting. It's really daunting, and we're worried about doing it. And so sometimes we hesitate. And when we hesitate, usually because we're already imbalanced and in that fragile state, something just comes and goes bam and pushes us in that direction. So Judgment reversed often is like, oh, you're refusing the call. So you're in that stage where you hear it, but you're trying to ignore it. You're trying to convince yourself it's not real. You don't have to actually change anything. And then sure enough, something will probably happen to force you to come to terms with that. But when it's upright, we say, okay, like you're waking up, you're hearing the call, you see the spirit rise to action, and there's some kind of like precipice that you're standing upon. So it's a little bit of a complicated card. In a mundane way, I have also heard this. This has also literally come up as getting a phone call, like a phone call that is important for some reason. I think I was doing a reading for my sister once, and I was like, well, you're probably going to receive some kind of insight somehow, something will become aware, or you'll become aware of something or whatever. And like literally she got a call from somebody. I think it was with her. I can't quite remember, but it was literally a phone call. That was like, hey, by the way, you have to do all this stuff. So sometimes it can be a phone call, and as mundane as that. Sometimes it's it is a major arcana card. So the energies we're dealing with are bigger, more overarching. They have a lot more impact and a lot longer course of action. So usually it's kind of a reoccurring theme, right? There is something that we are being called to do, and we're in the process of figuring out how to meet that call. But it can also be in a mundane way. It can be quite literal, like, oh, you're going to get a call and have to do something. This is another thing. So even though Pluto, well, I don't know. Pluto is associated with Scorpio, and Scorpio is a water sign. Judgment is a fire card. And the reason it's a fire card is because we are being called to act, and action in tarot is considered more of a fire thing, right? Literally what moves the spirit into action, drive, ambition, motivation, the need to do something. And I like to say this a lot. So Mars does sometimes represent motivation. That's something that gets thrown around a lot in modern astrology circles. It's absolutely true. But the way that it's framed, sometimes I disagree with, because it's not the kind of Jupiterian motivation that's like oh, good job, precious baby. You're doing great. Just keep going in this direction. You're going to be so awesome. You know, of course I'll help you and it's going to be really fulfilling in your highest spiritual interest and blah, blah, blah. It's not that kind of motivation. It's more like the way that spurs motivate a horse to move, or like putting your hand over an open flame motivates you to withdraw it really quickly. Mars's kind of motivation is discomfort. It's oftentimes pain, physical or emotional pain, that forces you to change the situation. And I think this is important to bring up because whenever I don't quite know what to do, I've taken to thinking of it like, well, here's the reality. The situation will build and it will either become so completely unbearable that I have to venture out into something new because what is currently is just so uncomfortable that anything would be better. Or, you know, I'm going to fight and struggle to keep doing the same thing and maybe it'll work and maybe the pressure will alleviate, but you're going to know, right? Because if literally something becomes intolerable, it's intolerable. It's that kind of shifting point where the devil you don't know starts looking better than the devil you do. Mars is those kinds of situations. That's how he motivates, or how she motivates, if you like. Anyway. Mars is literally like a hot fire poker. Like, hey, you want to go yet? You want to go yet? You want to have it now? Like, let's turn up the heat. How about now? Anyway, so that's kind of what judgment is, right? It's a slow build towards undeniable need to act. Just something shifts and you just absolutely have to do it. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. So and this is also interesting too. I'll talk about this after I talk about the 10 of Cups, but lately I've been really interested. Lately I've been really interested in the 23rd, because around the 23rd we get the stellium in Scorpio, speaking of Mars and Scorpio. But the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, and Mars will all be in Scorpio, and that's like a respectable stellium, you know, that's fine. But what's more interesting about this one to me is that it will be trining Jupiter in Cancer, as well as Pisces and as well as Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. And so literally something about this Scorpio stellium sets off a chain of events that affects every single planet except for Venus and Uranus. And I think that's super interesting, and I want to know what the deal is there. Well, I guess, and Pluto. It doesn't, because Pluto is, if anything, is going to be doing that is by, what am I trying to say? If anything, Pluto will be trining Venus in Libra in its place in Aquarius, by sign anyway, but by degree at some point, but by sign generally. And so that's a lot of planets. Pluto's kind of a whole other thing. To be honest, I'm like still kind of on the fence about how much to use that. I think unless it's very specifically activated, I don't know. Pluto's kind of its own beast. And actually, before I was taking Austin Coppock's Fundamentals of Astrology class, I kind of didn't want to use it at all, except for like as kind of a punctuation, like period, like the end, like we're moving on. You know, Pluto kind of had this, like, for me, because it is so generational and so slow moving, it's more like the way where it shows up in your natal chart is kind of like the way that your culture impacts you. It like subconsciously deals with all this like baggage you got going on and stuff. Because, you know, like everybody who's born around my time is going to have Pluto in Scorpio, but not everybody will have it in the 11th house like I do. And so I do think, like, for example, having unfettered access to the internet at a very young age when it was very unmonitored, like, did make me very suspicious of my community. And so that's just one way in which that energy of like having all this hidden weird like stuff happen in the 11th house affected me as a person, right? I think everybody in that generation who has Pluto and Scorpio has like weird stories of like intimate initiations into a weird underbelly and like just kind of bizarre Plutonian Scorpion things. But it doesn't always affect their 11th house. It'll, you know, show up in other places for other people. So generally speaking, for like Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, that's kind of how I see them. I see them as punctuation to a sentence that speaks to the generational impact of your life in that house. I see Pluto as a period because it's like the end. We're transformed. We're moving on to a new sentence. I see Neptune as a question mark because is it actually this or is it not? And then I see Uranus more as an explanation mark, like bam, new things, right? Crazy stuff. But other than that, I don't take them that seriously. However, because we're doing this thing now where all of the outer planets are changing signs or have changed signs, which is something that does not happen very often, now they are becoming a lot more interesting and more active because there's something new, right? It's like a shift in like a huge cultural shift that everybody is going to be experiencing for a really long time. So even though when I first started getting into astrology, I was like, I don't know why everybody is so on their rockers about Neptune and Uranus and Pluto. Like they're so slow and they're so similar for everyone. And for a long time, that's true. But now things are shifting. So if you have planets and, the houses that they're shifting to, they're going to start interacting with those whereas they wouldn't have before. And that is very interesting and new. So generally my take is they don't necessarily matter unless they change signs or like actually hit something in your natal chart. Otherwise, I just see them as kind of punctuation for like how your generation affects you specifically based on what sign, house, and other planets it's interacting with in your chart. Anyway, so that's my 2 cents in that. Faye says, oh no, I can see it with Mars. You were just pointing out my relationship with them the other day. Yeah, totally. Fem Mars, right. I'm glad I have girl power. I want to make all of the night sect planets girl power and all of the day sect planets. No, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. But anyway, so anyway, the point is I've been asking people, I even did a post on Instagram where I was like, hey, if you're a Leo or Scorpio rising, you want to be friends because I need somebody to study. Hang out with and do friend stuff with. So, but the reason that I wanted to study them was because I already know an Aquarius rising and I already know several Taurus risings. But I wanted to study how this stellium will affect natives where it lands on an angle, because then it should be very obvious because angles are very strong places. I was particularly interested in Leo risings because it affects the 4th house of home. And I'm wondering if that's going to trigger a move for a lot of the Leo risings out there or a lot of family drama. And I was interested in Scorpio risings because to be honest, first house transits still kind of confuse me a little bit because the first house is you as incarnate physical body, soul thing on earth going through the world. It's the helm. It's the leader of the chart. It sets up everything. Sometimes I think of it as being, your perspective on earth. It's what you're doing, what you're thinking, where you're going, that kind of stuff. But when planets go into your first, sometimes it seems those planetary significations just fall into your lap, right? They just happen right in front of you, or they happen to you. They're embodied by someone who comes to you, or you embody them as you go to other people. And that's kind of difficult to pinpoint exactly, I think. For example, when I was tracking Venus, which I should start doing again, but I was, and then she went into the 6th and I lost track of her. But anyway, well, on the 7th, I was looking at the 7th a little bit, so yeah. I guess I just lost track of her when she started going over my, going into the South Node over my benefics, and she did her Venus return, and I was I wrote that day in my calendar, and I was pay attention to this day, and I totally didn't because the South Node is there, so I just, didn't think about it. Anyway, the point is, sorry. When Venus went through my first house, I did get a lot of little gifts, a lot of little Venusian gifts. For example, I went to a coffee shop I go to almost every day, and they gave me free coffees more than once in that month, which they don't never do that, but they did it more often than they would have if Venus was not there. And I also got more compliments, and I generally felt things are good, things are beautiful, this is fun, right? I drew a lot more, and I didn't pay as much attention to my obligations that weren't fun. So all that stuff happened, and that's very much Venus's significations and in the first house. I'm really curious what Mars does, because I would think Mars being in the first house brings conflict and accidents. But, Mars went through my husband's first house not that long ago when he was in Cancer. And he didn't have any accidents. He was, though, very frustrated a lot of the time. But anyway, so I very specifically wanted to study those things. So I put out a... what do you call that when you're requesting actors to sign up? I put out a call sheet or something. for Scorpio and Leo risings, because I wanted to see. And I'm also very curious to see how that affects people when they're a day chart or night chart, because if you're a night chart, theoretically, Mars is more likely to help you than hurt you, depending on his configurations in your natal chart, but also just in general compared to his like default setting or her default setting, if you like. I don't know. So anyway, so that's why I bring this up, because I'm very curious about what the 23rd is going to look like. And I have my own predictions for like global stuff. I think the sun and the moon in Scorpio reveal information, particularly because it's the sun, the moon, and Mercury. So I think information will be revealed that triggers a fight, or freeze reflex, because Mars, potentially information about lies, slander, propaganda, something like that. It's something big is revealed that's very like underbelly, scorpionic, like dark stuff. And I think it's going to prompt us into action in some way, and some way that ties in this like nurturing Jupiterian Cancer energy that we've been cultivating, and also that ties in the Saturn Neptune, like what's real and what's not real, and what is the boundary and what is the restriction, and what is it, you know, what all that confusion that's been going on. Particularly because it's interesting that, like, you know, Saturn and Neptune have been retrograding like back into, you know, from Aries back into Pisces. So they had been in Aries for a while, but for this specific stellium, they're coming back into Pisces. It almost feels like they're coming back in order to try and all of this shenaniganery. And maybe I'm putting too much emphasis on it, but it seems really interesting, and I want to know what happens, because I mean, stelliums are always interesting to me anyway. It's like so much energy in one place. So it's not like they never happen. Like, you know, it definitely has happened. I know a lot of people with stelliums. My sister has a Capricorn stellium. A friend of mine in my astrology book club has a Scorpio stellium. Maybe I should ask him about it, actually, now that I think about it. But anyway, so yeah, like they happen, but or like my other friend has a Pisces stellium. Like they definitely do happen, but I'm very interested in seeing them happen real time now that I know more about astrology, because I feel like it's going to be super interesting. Yeah, casting call, exactly. Thank you. Anyway, I forgot what I was talking about, but basically, oh, well, this is a judgment, I guess, is because it's fiery and because it's a call to action. But it is also kind of associated with Pluto. Pluto is very icy. It's the planet so icy, it's hot, you know, so cold, it burns. Anyway, and then we have the 10 of Cups, and the 10 of Cups is Pisces, which is ruled by Jupiter, which is fun because we're in Jupiter's hour right now. And this is the Mars decan of Pisces. So when I talk about the 10 of Cups, I like to focus on the fact that, so Pisces is like this universal waters of oneness and potential and imagination and connectedness, interconnectivity. It's really, you know, it's ruled by Jupiter. It's benefic. It's uplifting. It's really a nice ocean of connection, whether that's the subconscious ocean of collective consciousness, the ocean of space that connects us all, right? The actual literal ocean that, you know, life has emerged from on this planet. It's a very good, nice thing, right? And I think Mars really brings those waters to a boil. Mars really forces us to stop being in that collective, universal state of Pisces oneness, and prepares us for the next decan to follow, which would be the Mars decan of Aries, which is where we go out, we burst from the womb, we burst from the waters of consciousness as a single individual with an agenda that is ours. We go and pursue, we seize the day, we conquer, right? Whatever it is that martial impulse causes you to do. So this is the preparation where we're breaking from universal oneness and collection and cohesion, and the water is starting to boil, individual stuff is coming to the surface, and that brings with it good and bad. So sometimes I associate Pisces with fantasies and daydreams, and wishes, if you will. And Mars is fighting. This is fighting for fantasy, fighting for wishes, fighting for delusions, potentially, depending on if the card is upright or reversed. But generally, in just tarot, they'll tell you things like, oh, you know, this is the happily ever after card. This is the domestic bliss card. It's the end of the suit of cups. It's a nice, you know, relational fulfillment with your friends and your family and your partner and your children. It's all of those emotional things we were starting with, all the different cup cards finally paying off. Like we've, you know, gone past the 8 of Cups where we're trying to figure out what is true and what is meaningful and getting rid of the stuff that is not meaningful. And then the 9 where we finally found it. We found the stuff that really fills our cups full. We feel so content and awesome. And then it's the 10 where we get to celebrate the rewards of that hard-won emotional labor. But the thing is, Although I do think that definitely and specifically when it's upright, we have this ability to fight for and win our dreams. Sometimes it's like kind of too good to be true, right? Austin Coppock writes in his books 36 Faces that people who have Mars in this decan of Pisces, their ability to attain things is better than their discrimination, right? Than their discernment on what is worth getting. So this is sort of like the very end of the line, right? You get it or you don't get it. We're pushing for it. We're gonna get there, right? Anything necessary, what's the word? Like, oh shit, I don't even want to say that because it was just recently said in a really bad way. But yeah, through any means necessary, right? Like we're going to die for this dream. We're going to fight for this dream and get it or die trying. This is that kind of like Piscean, like this is the swell of the ocean. This is the surge. It takes you or it doesn't, right? This is the final frontier, emotionally speaking. Like we're doing it. When it's reversed, then we say, oh, you're fighting for a fantasy, you're fighting for a daydream, you're deluded. Like you're so hoping that this will be a thing that you're trying to morph it into becoming something like that. When the 10 of Cups appears reversed, I see a lot of like, oh, this is a very unhappy, very toxic relationship that you're deluding yourself into thinking is good because, you know, you really, really want it to be like the one, right? You really want this to be your happily ever after, but it just isn't. Sometimes with the ending suit of Cups, we come to this point where like we've worked so hard and we have all of this stuff accumulated, but then it's like, oh, but that actually didn't make me happy. So now I'm back to square one. I have to go all the way back to the Ace of Cups and like find that emotional like pull again. And that can be very scary. Anyway, we don't need to talk that much about it because it was upright. So that's good. This generally I take to mean that whatever it is you're fighting for, this vision, this perfect thing you have in your head is attainable. You can get it, right? It is something that you can fight for. And more importantly, something that you may actually receive, like not even necessarily in that much time. So this is basically saying, and this is a very Mercury, I think, Jupiter thing to say, where it's like, you know, with people's help. People are here to help you. They're here to help you and in a very material, actual way. They're receiving the call, and together you can collectively achieve that happily ever after, that dream, right? Working together consistently, doing the hard, diligent labor, you know, the slow, steady race towards the end. Like it, you know, it can pay off. You can receive the call to action and do the thing and have the reward. Which, I don't know, feels Jupiterian to me. But yeah, I also wonder, oh, sorry. I feel like I got totally distracted a couple different points. So just to jump back, in the mundane world, I feel like there's already been so many little lead ups to stuff like politically. We have all of these scandals, all of these secrets that are coming out or, you know, that they're trying to repress or hide with propaganda and with cover-ups and stuff. Like we still haven't gotten the Epstein files from our president or whatever, that guy. You know, there are all these people that just went missing from Alligator Alcatraz, where they had detained all of these immigrants, some of whom they have detained illegally, and they just vanished, which is like bone chilling and not good. Very much judgment, very much this Scorpio thing, having all of these people just boom, vanished. Which, you know, we know what that actually means, don't we? And then there's all of these other things about like, you know, conspiracy theories and conspiracy plots and all of this stuff. So I do kind of wonder if this stellium in Scorpio, just like for an American mundane way, isn't going to be like revealing information that really is like, what, you know, really jars us or like wakes us up to something. And then the immediate attempt to propaganda, to control the narrative, to bulldoze over that. And I say that because Mars and Mercury can sometimes be fighting words, but it can also sometimes be lies and slander. You know, words that hurt, controlling the narrative, like strong arming the narrative, literally. And Mars and Mercury stay together into Sagittarius through November. So there's going to be like a long effort to like control narrative and to slander and to harm people for talking, potentially harm people for speaking out. There have been all these infringes upon freedom of speech lately. I mean, even people saying like AI data banks and stuff are collecting, like ICE is going through all of the information that anyone has ever posted online or texted to another person or done any of that to try to like basically get them, to try to find find fault or find illegalities and just like arrest people, I guess, or something. So it's all very scary, very totalitarian, very stellium and Scorpio. And I'm kind of wondering how that plays out. But I'm also wondering how that plays out for just individual people on a mundane level, because, you know, it's going to affect each person differently depending on their chart. And not all of them are going to be so drastic as like being disappeared by the government, hopefully. Hopefully. But yeah, I don't know. It's like very swiftly becoming illegal to criticize the government. I mean, and Trump has already like sued media outlets for just saying things that he doesn't like, right? Which is a huge, gnarly conflict of interest, particularly with the leader of the American people. Like, the press is absolutely allowed to criticize him, but whatever. At least they were. So it's like we've known, like we've seen creeping instances of this kind of stuff happening. And as I'm talking right now, like, you know, Mars is in Scorpio and Mercury is 3 degrees into his sign. So, and Mars has been in Scorpio for like, not like super long, but like a while. Let me see. I'll go back and check. He's been in Scorpio, or she has been in Scorpio. I don't know. She's been in Scorpio since September 22nd, around that time. So yeah, you know, for a while. Not like a ton of time, but enough for us to get used to it. And Mars being in Scorpio is said to be really good for like military leaders and warmongers and, you know, people who are like martial in nature, because that's Mars' domicile there, so he's very strong. Anywho, okay, so that's what I have for the collective, is just together we can make a difference. Hear the call, help your fellow man, you know, do the Jupiterian mercurial thing, control your own personal narrative, be steadfast and vigilant against people who are trying to convince you of non-realities. Anyway, but also collectively together, right, we can overcome, we can persevere, we can prevail. Like, some dreams are worth fighting for. I like to think that the dream of, I don't know, peace and kindness, togetherness, oneness, like those are good things. Like, we should be working towards that and not fear isolation, segregation, misinformation, like all this stuff that seems to be cropping up lately. You know, it's funny. I used to listen to this song by Wax Taylor, which is like a French artist who kind of mixes a bunch of media clips into like sort of rap-like songs. They're really, really good. And one of them was We Have Lost the Way. It's like literally taking clips from this like movie about fascism and stuff. And it's so good. And guess what? It was removed on my Apple list. My Apple Music removed it because it's no longer available in my region or in my country. It was before. And I'm like, how convenient that the song that warns us against fascism and urges us to work with our fellow man in the interest of everyone's happiness and not against it. Wow, it's so interesting that that's the song that's getting removed in my country after like years. Like, I've been listening to the song for just forever and now I can't anymore, and I'm like, that's really funny, that's so interesting. So I don't know. It's one of those things, like, could be a coincidence, but what is it? Is it actually a coincidence? Because that stuff's happening a lot, you know, like when they were taking down constitutional rights from the government websites for maintenance, and then very quickly put them back up when everybody started losing their shit, because it was very specifically the amendments talking about due process, and they were kidnapping who they perceived as immigrants, who they suspected were illegal immigrants, and then locking them away in detainment facilities without due process. And so it seems kind of weird that for maintenance, they would take away constitutional clauses from a government website that specifically had to do with that, and nothing else. Like, I don't know about any kind of maintenance that just takes away a paragraph from a website unless somebody deleted it from that website. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's a weird way to, I don't know. I don't think that's the truth. I think there is a lot of, particularly in America, probably elsewhere, I can only speak for my own experience in this regard, but it seems like there's a lot of propaganda coming out. Like, the institutions that we could have trusted, we can't any longer. Or the fact that like all of the media sources are owned by like 2 people and they both have connections to Trump. So that's great. You know, it's like weird, right? There's a lot of weird stuff going on. So be careful, be vigilant. For whatever. But anyway, Oh, that's so funny. See, look, I'm just talking about this and the hour literally just shifted. We're in Mars's hour now. I'm talking about government coups and being careful and people being abducted and taken away. And literally now we're Mercury's day, Mars's hour. So now Mars gets to, you see how that happened though? At first I'm like talking about just like tarot and all this stuff. And I'm, you know, interested in this Mars stellium. And I'm like, this could be cool. And then Mars takes the mic and says, by the way, Mars takes the mic in Scorpio and starts whispering really insidious things like, by the way, they're out to get you. I just say that because literally Scorpio is like secrets and paranoia. And Mars takes the mic and Mars is with Mercury right now in Scorpio. And here I am fretting about secrets and paranoia and government plots and coups. It's so Mars, Scorpio, Mercury. Like that's exactly what happened and exactly just now. So you saw it live. Freaking the hour changed and here we are. Anyway, it's very fun. Tarot is very receptive to that kind of thing. So, does anybody want to ask any specific questions for the cards? And if so, which deck would you like to use? And in the meantime, I'm just going to shuffle cards, and if they come out, I'll talk about them. And I'm going to watch the comments. So if you guys have questions, I will stop and answer those. Yeah, on a Mercury in Scorpio day. Exactly. Right now, we're in Mercury's day, Mars's hour. And freaking Mars and Mercury are together in the sky in Scorpio, being suspicious, being afraid, start literally saying fighting words. And I know that what I just said is absolutely capable of triggering a lot of people. A lot of people still have a lot of faith in institutions and government, and I don't understand it. And maybe this is just me having Pluto in the 11th house in Scorpio. Like my 11th house is literally Scorpio because I'm a Capricorn rising. So I'm very suspicious of community and organization, things that say they're doing good. I wonder about that just on a base level. I like to believe that there are like goodness and institutions can be beneficial and protective and do truth and do all the good stuff. But I'm very suspicious of it. And then history shows that it doesn't always happen. Okay, cool. Curry Star has a question. I had my question last week, but if there's space for a request, I wonder if we can do sigil basics. Oh yeah, we can totally do sigil basics because you, my dear Curry Star, are a member of my Patreon. And these lives are supposed to be so that you can ask me any questions. And so I'm actually kind of stoked that we have a non-tarot question because even though tarot cards are really fun, there's like a lot of things we can do. So I will show you today how to make a sigil. Oh, this is literally my page making a sigil one time. That's funny. But no, we'll start from scratch. Okay. So let me find a pen. My dog's all growling at me. Oops, whoopsies. I'm looking for my favorite pen. Sorry, and it's taking a little bit longer than it needs to. Does it have ink though? No, it has no ink. Okay, hold on. So while I'm doing this, how about you guys think of a sigil that you'd like me to make for you, and I'll show you how to do it. So basically the first step in making a sigil is coming up with what I call a sigil command, but what is a statement of affirmation. And so basically what we're doing here is we're recognizing some kind of desire that we have, and then you're going to state it like it's a fact that's already happened, right? Because time is nonlinear, and we want the sigil to work. And we don't want, okay, so let me back up here. So sigils ultimately, in my experience, are about probability. Especially getting into astrology, one thing that I have noticed is that some events seem very much fated to happen. You absolutely cannot change them. There's just too much built up into them. And some events absolutely are within your control. And sometimes it's hard to know exactly where the line or boundary between those two things are. And sometimes it's not firm. So I like to think of it as a cosmic scale. I was just like when you're a doctor, right? It doesn't matter how proficient or amazing you are as a doctor. If it's somebody's time to go, it's somebody's time to go, right? You can try as hard as you can to save them, but some people just can't be saved. That's just where they are in their life's trajectory. That's how sigil magic works also. Sometimes you can impact things and make really big changes, and sometimes you can't, and it just doesn't matter how strong you are as a magician or witch. It doesn't matter how much energy or focus or ritual you have. Sometimes that event is fixed and it's non-negotiable. The planets say, stars can't do it. Sorry, right? It's not going to happen. But we never know if we don't try. So sigils are about probability and about focusing your intention. Now, I think that humanity in general and consciousness also are capable of way more than we think. And we are taught through culture, through society, through experience. There are certain things we just can't do. And so we don't try. We get conditioned to limit ourselves. And I think that the power of human consciousness to affect change is a lot bigger in most cases than we think that it is. So essentially what we're doing with a sigil is we're wording our desire as though it already happens. Like, let's say, I don't know, does it being Mars hour make it extra feisty time? Yes. When the planetary hour shifts, that's kind of like, okay, let me contextualize. So every day is ruled by a different planet. Tuesday is Mars's day, Wednesday is Mercury's day, etc. And so generally speaking, it's said that that planet during that day has like, I don't know, is the leader of the day, right? Mostly has more effect generally, or has more effect than otherwise would during that special day. It's like they're watching on that day. And then that planet is going to have effects or abilities. It's going to have a perspective that is dependent upon where it is in the sky right now. So Mercury is literally with Mars in Scorpio right now, however, receiving a trine from Jupiter, at least by sign. So all of that stuff is like going to play a role in what Mercury has to say when it's his day. And then a planetary hour is even more specific. So even within the days, the hours shift as well and cycle through the signs. And so that is going to filter even more specifically. So it's Mercury's day, but Mars's hour. So Mercury is going to talk about Mars things during Mars's hour. It's almost like that's what Mercury has on his mind right now, is Mars topics. And then he will have solar topics after that. And then he'll have Venusian topics. And then he'll have mercurial topics. But it's all Mercury, but it's filtered now through the other planet who like basically has the hour. So if you're trying to do like, I don't know, man, I would really like it if my pen started working. I really want to use this one. Anyway, so if you have like a specific, I don't know, magical practice that you want to do, and it's about like banishing things or restricting things or something like that, you might do it on Saturn's day, Saturn's hour, because Saturn would be the primary thing for like restricting something or banishing something. If you wanted to win some kind of fight or contest, you might do it Mars's day, Mars's hour. And if you wanted to do some kind of intellectual thing or study, you might do Mercury's day, Mercury's hour. If you wanted to do an intellectual study of spiritual stuff, you might do Mercury's day, Jupiter's hour, or Jupiter's day, Mercury's hour. So you can kind of time specific things about magical practice based on like just that information, although you would also want to take into consideration the moon and what the moon is doing. Mostly you don't want the moon to be interacting with the malefics at all, because the moon is about manifesting stuff into the material, and if she's touching a malefic, you might be bringing stuff that's not great. You also want to do other considerations, like if there's a planet that controls the thing you're trying to do, to time it so that that could be on the rising or at least in a favorable house, and that its ruler would be either in the rising or on another angle or favorable house, stuff like that. But sometimes and very often you can't get all of those things to work at the same time. So like, you can't control, like the rising sign literally changes by the hour too. So if it just so happens that you're trying to do a Mercury thing, you can have Mercury's day, Mercury's hour, but Mercury's hour might not be when Mercury's on the ascendant of the chart. So you kind of have to pick one. Anyway, so just, it's a balancing act. Okay, so Faye says, I'm sprouting, I am growing, I will bloom. Perfect. But instead of saying I will bloom, you want to say something like I have bloomed, I am blooming, right? Because the idea is that the sigil is non-linear. And so if you say something like I will bloom, then that's like, yes, okay, the sigil will give you you will eventually someday, kind of. But the idea is that you want to do something right now, right? You want the effects to happen as soon as possible or whenever it is possible for them to happen. and you don't want that to be held off indefinitely or whatever. So generally speaking, it's important to be like, this is happening right now, because when you, oh, that's another thing, I kind of got sidetracked, but when you charge and activate the sigil, you are trying to manifest whatever that affirmation of desire is in that moment as quickly as possible. So it's like you're setting it free, right? The point of sigilizing the affirmation is to deconnect it to the conscious mind, implant it solely in the subconscious, which is then linked up into the collective conscious of universal zeitgeist or whatever. And so you kind of bypass that part of your ego that has learned to say things like, I can't do this, I won't do this, what if it never happens, what if it happens when I'm 100 years old or whatever. Like, the point of sigilization is to distance the thing. Man, I really cannot get my pen to work. I'm gonna have to just do a different one, I think. Anyway, so that's why you do it. I'll just use a different pen. It's like not working. I have so many art pens, but they're like not all good for actually just making a sentence, you know? Oh, come on, Zia, just pick something. Okay. I really want this pen to work. Come on, man. How come you don't want to work? What's funny is I also have this one, but it also doesn't work. All my pens are like out of ink. Ugh. I can't even open that one. This one makes such nice lines. Okay, fine. Well, it doesn't right now. Will you be able to see that? I don't know if that's like thick enough. Curse my ultra thin pens. Okay. Yeah, so we would put everything in the present tense. So we say something like, oh, and also this is the other thing. The art of making a sigil is quite creative, but we do want to keep the words literal because like I had this one case of that I was working on a sigil with somebody and they were like, oh, you know, I am growing. And I was like, okay, well, do you mean like material growth or spiritual growth? Because like, I don't know, that could mean you want to grow a couple inches taller. It could mean you want to grow like 2 pounds heavier. It could mean you want to grow something, a mole on your arm. Like, there's a lot of ways to grow. And I think mostly what we mean is we want to like be spiritual or something, like we want to mature in a spiritual capacity. So generally speaking, it's good to be literal and it's good to be present current tense. So we could say something like, I don't know, like I am, what are we really trying to say when we say like, I'm growing? We say like, I am always learning and improving, right? I am always spiritually elevating. I am receptive to the lessons of my life's journey or something, right? Like we want to really like hone in on what we're actually trying to accomplish and not just be like, oh, you know, vaguely in this direction or doing that or whatever. So let's see. Perhaps we can say something like, I am spiritually awakened, or I am in alignment with my purpose, or I act in alignment with my purpose, or I grow and act in alignment with my spiritual purpose, or something along those lines. Maybe we should say, oh, can we do the one from this month? You mean the Patreon exclusive spell jar, that one? I have to look back on that. How do I open it? There we go. Okay. I'm going to my Patreon, going to my dashboard, going to collections, and then I am looking at my sigil archive, which is, by the way, if you are a Patreon member, you get access to my sigil archive. The sigil I did for this month in October was building systems of support. Yeah, and so for that one, the affirmation was, I build systems of love, care, kindness, and support. I could show you how I made it if you want, but again, it's already made, so I don't know if that's like as fun to learn how to do from scratch, but can I steal from someone else's prayer? Yeah, I mean, you could. You could do whatever. I mean, particularly as long as you're not trying to, like, you know, sell it or something, right? I would say it's probably fine. I mean, I don't know. We could do this sigil again, but I want to show you the process of like creating one. Maybe we should just do something like really easy just to get started. You want to do something like, oh, I don't know, I attract good luck or something, or I attract love and success, or you know, another thing too that's nice is to be able to define the terms of your success. I have noticed that as being like really important, because sometimes I'll see people are actually very successful by a lot of criteria, but they don't really see it that way because that's not their definition of what success actually is, which is another way that like sigils can be a bit sticky, because, you know, if you want financial success but you just say I'm successful, it's true that you can, as you're creating the sigil, as you're writing it, you visualize specifically what kind of success you want. But I have to think that being specific, even in the process, this like initial stage of coming up with an affirmation of intent, would be beneficial, essentially. There's this Regulus prayer that goes, let our rise inspire and our radiance nurture. Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, my rise inspires me and my radiance nurtures me. Okay, that's cool. Let's use that. That's a good one. Okay, so all we would do is first write the affirmation. So okay. My rise inspires and my radiance nurtures. These are the victories to the world in which I dwell. That's awesome. That's so cool. Where did you find that, by the way? I have not heard that. I also want to make a oracle deck about fixed stars someday, so that would be cool to go to that source. But anyways, so let's do that. My rise inspires me and my radiance nurtures me. Now, well, it's fine. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so basically what I want to do. Oh, sphere and sundry. That's so funny. Okay, so just for everyone watching, I guess this prayer was taken from Sphere and Sundry, which is the cool occult shop that Austin Coppock's wife runs. Anyway, so all credit to them. That's what we're doing. This is just for educational purposes. Anyway, so how I make a sigil, and this is important to know too, there are lots of different ways to do it. So if you research how to make a sigil, you'll probably run into them, but this is how I learned to do it, and so this is how I've always done it. So basically, I write the full sentence out like this, and then I write it one more time. My rise inspires me, and my radiance nurtures me. So I write it once like this, I write it again like that. This time I look and I cross out any of the vowels, so A, E, I, or U. O or U. And if you want, you can take away Y's. I leave the Y's because they're sometimes a vowel, and I feel like sometimes doesn't cut it, and also because I like X, Y, Z. Those are my favorite letters for some reason, because they're not used as much. I don't know. So anyways, so you'd go through and you'd be like, okay, no I, no E, no I, no I, no E, no E, no A, no A, no I, no A, no E, no U, no U, no E, no me. Okay. And then I write again in capitals the letters I have left. So M, Y, R, N, S, P. We already did M. You don't have to repeat letters if they come up again. D, we already did M. We already did Y. We already did R. We already did N. C. We already did N. We already did R. T. We already did R. Okay, I think that's all of them. Okay, so now these are the letters that I have left. So these are going to be the letters that you use to make your sigil. So you can see how from this sentence, my rise inspires me and my radiance nurtures me. And we can see how from that makes total conscious sense, right? We read it, we interact with the words, and then we have time to argue with it. Like, what does radiance mean? What does inspire me? I can't inspire anyone. I can do whatever. Okay, so these are things that like consciousness gets to do. That just gets to bring in the information and think whatever it wants about it. This is an assortment of gibberish. It no longer makes conscious sense. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take these letters and we're going to make a symbol or a sign and then imbue that sign with the meaning, the energy of that full affirmation without prompting all of this second guessing stuff that happens. So you just start experimenting from here. It's, you know, you can do whatever. So let's say you want to do like, let's say that's an M, that also can be a Y there. Sometimes I like to put like little decorative elements. Let's see, that's a T, because you see how that goes T. Sometimes I like to do another one like that. You could do like, this could be an R, you could do another one like that. Let's say you want to connect it like that. And let's say you want like an N shape. So maybe we do like that. Because then this makes a capital N right there, if you see that. And then let's say you want a D, so maybe we go like that or something. You can do that. So anyway, and then you just keep experimenting, and then if you don't like the way that that's looking, you just start over and you do it again. So now we'll say, okay, this is the D, since I had trouble with that, and then this can be the Y. And then, let's see, like that. This could be, we could do that as like the N and also the M. We could do like that. Now it looks like a little, like a little ET guy. Okay, so and then yeah, and then you just keep like messing with it until you find something that you like. So you can like try new things. Let's try having it go here. Like that. Could kind of make it like a moon shape or something. I kind of like that shape, but I don't necessarily like, if you wanted those guys. It's a dollar sign. Ha 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 ha. No, we don't need a dollar sign. But yeah, so you just mess around and try to like find a design shape that you like. And this part can take sort of a long time. So, so pardon me while I try to make one. Well, we're talking about rising, so maybe we do an arrow because we're rising up. So this is an M, and because we split it, it can also be an N. Let's see, do something like that. Maybe have it be like this. I guess that could count as an R too if we really wanted it to. Or we could do a smaller one like that. Oh, and that's the other thing too. During this process, you can change them back into lowercase if you want. It's really just up to you. We can say this is a D because it goes like that. We could say, let's see, does it have a P? We could say this is a P right there. T. Something like that. Something like that. Maybe. So if you start to kind of like the shape a little bit, you can just, sorry, that's my dog. She's going ham. I'm not sure what she's doing. She's playing with a toy. That dog. She is so cute and so needy. So yeah, I don't know. You just play around, figure it out. I do feel like I really should just like get one going just to, maybe we should, Magic, what are you doing? What shape would I like? How about we can go that way and that way. I like it when we do little things like that. My dog is really distracting. Let's do a small, although I don't know if I want like a downward arrow shape. Let's turn it into a diamond. So that was supposed to be the Y, but I've turned it into a diamond shape because I didn't want the implication that we were going downwards. Aw, thank you. Cursor says it's really relaxing to draw with you. That's good because yeah, this part is just mostly supposed to be like meditative kind of doodling, and you just really need to figure out like a shape that you like. So if I connect it like this, then it makes an S because we got this shape. So that looks kind of nice, less like a dollar sign anyway. Let's have a goal here. Why don't we have like a dot or something maybe, or another diamond could be nice. Because then it's like we're ascending towards something, like radiating, we're rising towards something. That could be kind of a nice little, okay, and then so here's a P. This could be an R, this could be an S. Okay, do we have an M shape? Not really, so I should make an M shape here. Let's see, how do I want to add that? Oh, the other thing is I could go, I could have it be here, and then have that be there. And then, we could do that. That could be an M shape, like rooted in something. And then that gives us, we don't have that nice R shape from here though, do we? Oh, I guess we do. I guess the difference is that I shaded this. We don't have to do that. Okay, so now you have an R, now you have an M, you have your S. We have a Y. Yes, this is our Y right here. We have an N. Do we have an N? Well, kind of. I would like it to be more of that, so what can we do? Also, I wonder if that would look kind of cool to like raise it. Maybe I could see it. I'll make a nicer, cleaner version in a minute. Let's see. I like to make them symmetrical, but you don't have to. But if we did this, then it can kind of be kind of like that. Okay, so now I have this kind of roughy, sketchy thing. It mostly fits all the criteria. This can be a D. This can be a C. I think I need another smaller one here or something, because then that's C. T, as my dog destroys stuff in the background. Okay, so I kind of am liking this shape. I think if I clean it up, it could be a little bit better. So now I'm gonna do that and just to see if it works for me. I'm gonna go down like this. Okay, and then I wanted it to be an N shape, so we're just gonna go straight from there to this. So that's gonna be our M, and then there's gonna be a U shape here. This is not actually a U. It's supposed to be more of like a moon, but let's see. What's it about if we put it in here, and then we have a diamond shape. Magic, hush. And then we just connect it like that. Okay, I'm not liking that as much as my original one, so I'm gonna try again. So, and I keep coming back to this arrow shape because we're like, my rise inspires me, so I feel like there should be like a rise there. So sometimes when I do arrow shapes, it's like a shorthand for like, oh, the energy is going upward. Oh, that's kind of cool because it echoes the diamond shape, so that's kind of nice. We still do need an M, but I wonder. We could get kind of flowy here. I don't know. Sometimes could do something like that. That kind of makes an N. Although, I don't know. I think that makes it look like too round. How about something like this? That could be kind of cool. Goes links back into that shape. And if we cut it off like that, that's kind of neat. And then so let's see, that kind of makes a D, an R, a Y, kind of an M. I mean, it did sort of bridge from that, but maybe I should make it, well, it's got the M here, so. How about that? Okay, I'm kind of liking that. Has the N, has the D. Okay, so I kind of like this sigil, so I'm going to try to do that one again. Oh, and yeah, sometimes the stage takes like a while. Like, for example, here's an example of literally the sigil I was doing for Patreon. So you can see I did it here. I was workshopping sentences. And then eventually, right, I started with like, I give freely and easily, love, kindness. And then it eventually evolved into I build systems of care, kindness, and support, because I really wanted it to be a more systematic, like everything that I do goes towards these things, towards these greater systems, which are good, because I wanted to believe that those systems could be good. And then I just kind of like workshopped the design, which now I got all this pen work all over, so you can't really see as much. But yeah, so I kind of just roughly sketched it until I had something that I liked. And then I went and drew it digitally, where I made it really pretty and took my time and everything. So that's basically the premise of what we're doing here. So I have this design, which I think has some potential. So I'm going to redraw it and try to be a lot cleaner, just to make sure that it's doing what I want it to do. So we know that we want here and then here. And to be honest, you can be as rough or as messy as you want. Really, the only thing that matters is that it is meaningful to you and you like the way that it's looking. And that is literally the only thing. I sometimes like to finish lines off with these little end caps, just because I like how neat it looks. Not neat as in like cool, neat as in like tidy, I should specify. So go here. Go here. Okay, and then one thing I wanted to do is go here like that, because I wanted to keep in those end shapes. And here I went. So let's see, how did I do this again? I think I went from here. That's how I did it. So I'm gonna go down like this, and then we're meeting like that. So, okay, so it is getting a little messy over here, so I think I have to really refine like how I'm making these shapes, but that's not too bad. Like that. I still like something about this other one better, so I'm going to try that one more time. And then obviously if I was doing this digitally, I would like, you know, I would measure everything. I would use like flat line tools and everything like that. But right now we're really just trying to make sure that the sketch is something that we like and like can be done. Because when you go to activate the sigil, you will be doing it traditionally, most likely not digitally. So even though I like to make them look really pretty digitally, the most important thing to do is just to make sure that, first of all, you can do it. It's a design that you can make. And second of all, that you like it. and that it resonates with whatever it is that you're trying to do. I kind of like how clean this part looks, so I'm going to try to refine that loop a little bit more and make it not quite so difficult for me to like continue. Oh, okay, how about that? That's kind of cool. And then it's like, it does give you a little bit of that arrow, but it's kind of like that piercing through part. Okay, so anyway, and then I would take it and I would do even more. Yeah, I know. So so Faye says, the shape U in the middle already kind of looks like a Y, just curved. Oh, Carly, yeah, it's still going. Somebody asked me how to make a sigil. So we're making a sigil for my rise inspires me and my radiance nurtures me, which is part of a quote that was created for the Regulus Star by Sphere and Sundry, which is the witchy shop that Austin Coppock's wife runs. It's really cool. But so I don't own that quote, but we are using it for demonstration purposes just to make a sigil. So I'm trying to find out, we're trying to make a sigil for that. Am I on screen here? And so far I have this base shape that I really am attached to. I like it a lot. And then let's see, what else was I doing here? Ah, yes. Coming down this way and then coming down that way. I like how this echoes the diamond shapes that we have going through here. I think that's really nice. And I like this part. But we want to make sure all the letters are included in everything. And we want to make sure, I mean, like, we could call this a U because literally a U is just a curved V, which is also kind of like a Y, but I wonder if I want to do this though, actually, because that's kind of looking, because this almost looks like a V. So this could be the U if this is the Y. This could be the S. This could be the R. That could be the D. Though this could kind of be the N too, because we've got that. So that could be the N. So what were we doing for the M again? Oh, the M was that shape at the bottom. Okay, so I think actually this could be the M. It's like a really big M, but that would work. Okay, so I kind of like that. It's a little bit more straightforward. It's a little bit simpler. And then sometimes if I have a base shape, I'll go in and I'll be like, okay, what is like a cool shape language thing to add? You know, not because it's necessary, but because I like it and it makes it pretty. I like to do like three of these marks. I am not Wiccan. I identify as pagan. Wiccan is its own thing, but they invest heavily in like the rule of three, the law of three. They often have spells that says like, you know, 3 times 3, so mote it be, that kind of a thing. And I do believe in the power of the number 3 because it's like archetypally a good number, right? There's like the Holy Trinity, there's like the 3 fates, you know. 3 is a number that's repeated often in fairy tale. There's a lot of like numerological cool stuff about 3. So I do like that part. I'm being specific because I am not Wiccan, but they are a modern faith that takes a lot of inspiration from the past, and that is one of the things that they are known for, from my understanding. So anyway, but I do like the number 3. Not that I need to justify my liking of the number 3. You know, another thing I could do is connect this. I wonder, that's kind of cool. That's kind of neat. I kind of like that, actually. And then maybe I make this a little bit more, it's diamonds and diamonds. I don't know. It's, you know, it's Regulus, so it's showy. It's got diamonds. It's got diamonds. How many lion heads are bejeweled, bedecked in diamonds? So I kind of like that. That's kind of cool. It carries up. I could actually just even connect all of this if I wanted and have it just be like, that's kind of neat. Yeah, I like that one. I don't know. I think I can make that look cool. Do I want this to also have an end cap though? I kind of like that. I don't know. I don't know if I want that to have an end cap. Maybe what I want it to have is like a bit of a curve. That could be cool. Do I want it to go out, or am I just making it like too complicated now? Yeah, I don't know. I think I liked how airy it was before, so we're not going to do that. We also don't have to have this one reach all the way. There's actually no reason for that. So we could just have it be like that. That's kind of neat. I kind of like a little, and then I like to put, let's just go with this for now because it's taken a long time, and also because I kind of like it. So I think it could work if I make it a little bit cooler. So the next thing that I like to do is put the sigil in a surrounding. The surrounding can be any shape. It can be a circle. It can be a square. You don't need me to draw this. You're not my 1-year-old, my 2-year-old. I meant. But anyway, you can put the surrounding, you can put the sigil in any shape. I like to do a circle because it feels like it's a protective like barrier. And then usually when you activate the sigil, that gets destroyed in some way. And so it's like breaching the circle, the embryo, but different shapes have different meanings. So a square is stable, lasts a long time, is slow. Diamond shapes are hard and protective. They're kind of like fire and water, right? Because it's got those 2 triangle shapes. Fire and water. It's very volatile, very swift. It's both projective and receptive. And then, of course, there's the associations with diamonds in current culture as being valuable, as being impenetrable. I don't want to put this in a diamond shape only because, I don't know, diamond barriers, like surroundings for sigils are interesting. I do wonder about the association of being impenetrable because typically we do want the surrounding to be breached during the activation process, although I think it could say some interesting things about like sigils for endurance or protection, or sigils that are activated passively to like keep them very protected. So I guess some of it depends on your own associations with these shapes and languages and what that means for you or what it triggers for you. I usually put my sigils in circles. I really like those a lot, and I also like the way that once you do that, it kind of like creates this nice little protective bubble, if you will, for the sigil. So I'm going to try again to make this sigil and make sure that I like it. And this time I'm going to try really hard, even though I am a little bit rushing, but I'm going to try hard to make it nice. Okay, so we have that. And we have that. And then we have that. I promise you guys, I am an artist. It's such a nice fail-safe to do things digitally though, because then it's like, you can just erase and it actually erases like 100% of it. You don't have to worry about any of your dirty little shapes making a mess. Here. And then we want that. Okay, and then this is going to be met in this shape here. Yeah, I do like the way that looks. And then we're going to go even farther. Bam, bam, bam. I do want that to be a noticeable difference. There you go. I wonder, something like that. If diamond shapes are what you seek, look to the top of the mountain peak. That is a quote from It's a Small World of Shapes, which is one of my daughter's favorite bedtime books. Just to give each horse its due, or its day. Is that the saying? Give each horse its day. Okay, so we have lots of diamonds. I like the way that there's interlocking diamonds though, because the quotes being about like inspiration and stuff, and inspiration is kind of like a ripple effect, right? Like you're inspired by something, so you create something, somebody else is inspired by that, so they create something. So I do think that both radiation, radiance, and inspiration have this kind of like rippling effect where they like affect more than just the center origin, which I guess would be this diamond here. So I do like the way that that kind of has the meaning in there. And those are things that I think of as I am making the shapes, and also after and during and the whole process, right? You think about like what the sigil means, what it means to you, why it's able to do the thing that it's doing. And then you just like refine, you know. I kind of do like some to be sticking out actually, so maybe we do it like that. Okay, so let's say that's our sigil. I would probably workshop this more, to be honest. Like, I'm not sure that I like this. I don't think I like the end. I do want to give more thickness here, but I kind of want, maybe we just leave it like going up. Yeah, I think I kind of like that better. Although, I don't know. I don't want it to read too much like a smile. Although, maybe it should. We are talking about uplifting inspirations and stuff. Could bring that in. I don't know if I want to, though. Oh, although that was part of the M, I think. So maybe a little bit of a lip would be good. Could also have it in like that, and then have this go down more. So we could do something like that. I don't know, does that make it look too heavy on the bottom? I do feel like I should get this show on the road, though, just to show you guys how to do this. So let's say we're happy with that sigil. This is like my Venus in Virgo. I'm like, oh, I don't like to be watched. Okay. So we'll do here. And then I decided I was gonna, maybe I should have the diamond shape not be connected at the top. Maybe that's part of it. Well, maybe I'll just go like that. I know I said that was like kind of like a dollar sign, but maybe I will try it really quick and see what's going on here. Sorry, I know I keep saying that I'm done, and then I'm like, wait, I'm not done. I'm not done. Yeah, I do like the interlocking diamond thing. Maybe what I need to do is make another one that's just an arrow like that. I wonder if that's too long. I feel like there's not enough, like I do like the way that this has kind of like a different shape to it. Okay, not that one, forget that one. You were also talking about how sigils span time, and a circle being a closed loop feels very fitting with that. Yes, exactly, because sigils are nonlinear. So just like time is nonlinear. So it's like all of these things are connected. That's part of the reason why we put things in positive present tense. It's like it is happening because it has happened, because it's destined to happen, which is why we're doing it, which is why it's already happened, right? So that's kind of the mindset we're using with sigil magic, is just like, it has obviously happened because it's destined to happen because I'm making it happen, and this is the part of making it happening which makes it happen, right? So it's happened, you know. It's not necessarily how you want to live your life in linear time, but for the purposes of like this mental magical exercise, I think that that kind of is a appropriate mindset to adopt. It's like, you know, we already have the thing because we're already doing the steps we need to do to get it. And so it's already been done. It's in that tapestry of life. You know, I just actually reposted this thing on Instagram about this like neural scientist who talks about consciousness being able to receive insights from the future because time is nonlinear. And so like intuition is being a response to like the future, like events happening in the future, rippling out and affecting a wider radius than just like linearly in the future or whatever, also being able to go back into the past. So people having like intuitive gut responses to certain things that's their consciousness receiving input from the future having already happened, being like, oh, this is going to happen, you know, or this is a thing or whatever. So that's kind of interesting. I like that, obviously, for obvious reasons. So just as in the interest of full disclosure, I have a vested interest in that being true. That would be nice. I like that idea. It fits in line with my philosophies really well. But I did hear that from an external source, and they say they are a scientist. So that's the amount of research I did into that. But I do believe that. So, you know, but I have believed that for a long time. Not news to me. But it's always nice. It's always nice when people with degrees are also like, hey, you might be onto something. Not me specifically, because they have no idea I exist, but me, you know, philosophically. I don't know, I can't really seem to get away from that, like, that shape right there. I guess that means that I want it to be there. Well, maybe I'll just curve it a little bit more. I just feel like it needs some more elegance, you know? Sorry, you can't even see what I'm writing. I'm like not good at minding the camera and also doing a thing at the same time. It's only one of many reasons I don't typically do stuff live, but okay, well, I kind of like that. I want it to be more open, I think, is the issue that I'm keep having with this. And then I'm also, you can't see it, but I'm referencing back to my previous design because I'm kind of, I just feel like something's missing, so I want to keep workshopping that a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I just want it to go out. Maybe more like a ripple, like a, I think that could be kind of cool. That line in the middle, though, did create the R, so I should probably put it back. But that's still cool. I still like that better, actually. The problem is, well, it doesn't have to be a problem, but yeah, okay. So this can make an R, that can make the Y, this can be the D, and it can also, what other letters? Oh, this is the other thing that I should have done in the beginning is when you go to rewrite it on a separate page, you should put your letters back up here. M, Y, R, N, S, P, D, C, T. So these are all the letters we're fitting in here. We have the T, we have the Y. We also do kind of have the M already. I just feel like there should be a little lip. But I don't know if I want it to connect or not. Maybe I just leave it open like that. Oh, that's kind of nice. Or, you know, what else? Adding extra lines is fun. Kind of like that. Okay, so we have M, we have N, we have R, we have N. Yes, we do. We have P, we have D. Oh, this could kind of be a C. We aren't exactly having a C with all of these angular shapes. We do have a T. So if C is the only thing that we're missing, then maybe we just make these kind of like a C shape. It also kind of looks like moons, which are fun. So yeah, maybe that's better sigil. It's a little bit more streamlined. I do kind of like this idea, but it seems like I was having a lot of trouble with that. Maybe I just tilt these up. Okay, cool. I like that. Okay, so this is the sigil we're doing. It's also easier to draw, which will be nice for, you know, for reasons. Okay, so that's my sigil. So now what I want to do, okay, I have to draw it one more time so that I have a record of it, and we'll just use this as the what I was gonna do. Don't you love how my art process is like very irregular and very hard to control? I just love that so much for me. Okay. And then we're gonna go here like that. This comes out, this goes here like that. And then we're gonna make it swoopy like this. And it doesn't have to be, oh, whoops, that was super uncontrolled. It doesn't have to be like super accurate or anything. The most important thing is gonna be that you're paying attention to what you're doing and to the intentions that you're trying to bring forth, and that you're generally satisfied with how it turns out, and you feel like all of the plot points have been hit in the design and also in the, as far as getting the letters. And that's really just all that we're looking for. So, oh, I'm going to do 3 here. Oh, I did 3. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. My other one's touched. That's why. Okay. So I just want to make sure that I have a record of this because, and then, this is the other thing too. You can always, like, you know, refine it, try again, use tracing paper, use a digital tool, you know, make it pretty or whatever. But you want to make sure that you have a general record of what it is, because after you're going to redraw this on a separate piece of paper, like I just did accidentally out of order. But so you would take this, you'd redraw it on a separate piece of paper, you'd put your paper away because we're not looking at it anymore. And then you would draw your selection, your boundary, your surrounding around it. And generally, you might, there we go. Put this right here actually, because as we do the surrounding, you like to really focus your intent on what it is you're trying to bring about with the sigil, right? Because that's the energy that you're surrounding and protecting and like accumulating, keeping safe or whatever. So what I like to do is I like to draw 3 circles going clockwise, and I like to say something to the effect of like, by the power of 3 times 3, as I say, so shall it be. And then you repeat your affirmation and you say it 3 times. So by the power of 3 times 3, as I will, so shall it be. My rise inspires me and my radiance nurtures me. 1, 2, 3. Then what I like to do is I like to draw a counterclockwise circle, and I like to say something like this. Any presence that would hinder me, I banish thee in, bringing about. My rise inspires me and my radiance nurtures me. 1, 2, 3. So this is my sigil. Now what you do is, this is how you activate your sigil. This is one of my favorite ways to do this. So I'm just going to show you how I do it, but disclaimer, like there's so many different ways to do it. So first of all, there are 2 main things that you do. There's passive activation and there's active activation. So passive would mean doing something that, well, you activate it passively through the earth or through water, the passive elements. For example, you could put anointment oil on here. And you could say, you know, really focus on your sigil affirmation because we're charging it. And then you could anoint it with oil, and then you could roll it up in a ball and then keep it under your pillow. So in passive activation, usually the sigil is not destroyed. It is continuously used, and it's supposed to kind of seep out energy slowly, but for a longer period of time. You could also do something like dissolve it in water. Well, that's a little active, but yeah, you can kind of do that. You could, I don't know, put it on your altar and look at it all the time. You could carry it with you in a little pouch. You could put different like herbs or something in it. You could, you know, stuff like that. What we're going to do though is my favorite, which is fire. We're going to burn it because that's what I pretty much always do. Okay. So what you do now is you have to charge the sigil. So you're going to look at the sigil for a really long time. And again, there are other ways to do this too, right? Like you could charge it with incense. You could rub it in your hands for a long time until it got super warm. That would be a way to charge it. You could do all kinds of things. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stare really intently at the sigil and repeat the affirmation until my vision naturally starts to kind of lose focus. When your vision loses focus, there you can almost see like a shadow image of what you're looking at kind of drift from the actual image. This represents to me the splitting apart of reality versus intention, like what is and what I want. Then eventually my focus will my vision will naturally refocus, and those two will merge into one. And that's how I know the sigil is charged, because to me, this is a symbolic act of merging my desire with reality. So here it goes. We're saying, my rise inspires me and my radiance nurtures me. My rise inspires me, my radiance nurtures me. And you just repeat it over and over. My rise inspires me. Okay, I did it. It's done. This is charged. For added measure, you know, you can fold it inwards like this. I'll also show you how to do it my second favorite way, which is you fold it and then here. You always want to make sure you're folding it towards you. That's why I'm moving it like that. And you're folding it, and you're folding it, and you're folding it. All that good stuff goes towards you, folding it. Then you hold it in your hands like this and you go, my rise inspires me and my radiance nurtures me. And you do it until your hands get really warm. Bam, all charged. After we charge, we're going to do a thing where we activate it. This is my cauldron. Okay, please exercise proper fire safety, because you're going to want that. You're going to want to be safe, guys. Okay. Hold that in one hand. And then as you look into the flames, you want to say your affirmation Also not drop it like I just did. Sorry, my AC is on, which is why it keeps getting put out. Generally, set yourself up for success. Don't do it in a room where your air conditioner is on or your fan is on, if you're going to do it this way. You have to protect it. There we go. Then after it's all burnt, I go, by the power of 3 times 3, as I have willed, so shall it be. My rise inspires me, and my radiance nurtures me. Thank you. And that's it. And then I would watch it until the cinders all burn out and the sigil is complete. And then you just go about your merry day and you have faith in your magic and in your belief and you say, yep, that worked. That was what I needed it to do. I'm good. Magic. Stop eating the Post-it notes. Oh, Miss Magick. I really needed those Post-it notes. Anyway, so that's how you make a sigil from start to finish, or at least that's how I make a sigil from start to finish. There's lots of different ways to do it. You don't have to burn it, obviously. And if you do, make sure you use fire safety stuff, right? Be smart. Don't leave open flames unattended. Make sure you have a fireproof vessel to do it in. Get yourself some of these if you can. I really like them a lot. I have 2 pairs actually. I have those and I also have, where are my other ones? Well, they're somewhere. I have another pair of pliers things that I use to burn sigils with. But yeah, so just, be smart about it. That's all. Not a big deal. Hopefully you're an adult if I'm talking to you. So hopefully you don't need parental supervision, but if you need parental supervision, maybe get that. Let's see, what is the planetary hour? I'm wondering if it's still Mars. Nope, it's the sun, but that's okay because we're literally talking about the fucking, it's so funny. We're literally talking about like will and spirituality and like what the spirit moves you. We're talking about, the star Regulus, which is like the heart of the lion and all this stuff. And so it's solar. Obviously it's solar. Anyway, talking about inspiring with radiance. But yeah, so that's how I would do it. And there's still 1 ember in there, so I'm not putting it out just yet. There it goes. I think that's all of them. Okay, so that's it. Then I put my tools away and I say thank you. And in this case, we're going to say thank you, Mercury, for bestowing us with this knowledge and wisdom. And thank you, Sol, for illuminating the path of our heart's desire, for allowing us to radiantly shine. All of those good solar things. It's good to thank your planetary deities. Thank you, Mars, for the destructive power of fire. Right? All those things. And the sun, too. The sun gets credit for that one as well. But the sun and Mars have a cool relationship, because the sun is exalted in Aries, the sign ruled by Mars. Because sometimes if you want to enact your will on the world, you got to get a little tough with it. In this case, you got to burn stuff. Not in all cases. Yeah, and like I said, you do not have to use fire. I particularly like fire. I don't know, my moon is in a fire sign. Maybe that's why. And it's also trining my sun, which is domicile and in a fire sign. Potentially why I enjoy that kind, but I find it very cathartic. Besides, fire is both cleansing and purifying as well as destructive. And so in my mind, it feels very appropriate for almost any kind of affirmation because you're destroying doubt, you're purifying doubt and fear, and you're illuminating the potential of a future, right? You're bringing in that warmth, that like ability, literally like the warmth in your blood that allows you to live, the warmth, like you're breathing life into this future reality that has the thing that you want. So for me, fire is very appropriate, but there are certain cases where I will not do that, right? Depending on what the sigil is. If the sigil is particularly gentle, for example, I might anoint it with oil, or I might like rub it really close and then like keep it close to my chest or something like that and have it activate more passively. If it's about letting something go, I might write it on something that is environmentally friendly and biodegradable and then put it into the ocean or into a moving body of water, or I might bury it. If it's about growing new things, I might do a biodegradable kind of a thing, put some seeds in it and plant it, try to make it grow. Whatever you want to do, obviously just be smart, right? Like if you're doing fire stuff, be careful because fire is dangerous. And if you're doing like ocean or plant stuff, then be mindful of the environment and write your sigil on things that are biodegradable. One time my sister and I think it was my sister and I, it might have been with Vinny actually, it might have been with my friend, but with somebody, I made like a Mabon sigil, and I actually made it on like rice paper that you can eat. And then I baked it into a cake and then I ate it. And so the digestive process was the activation of that sigil. So there's all kinds of things that you can do. There's literally like your imagination's the limit. The base thing is you want as much of the action and the word and everything you do around that to have like sympathetic, symbolic action, right? Fire is really great because it ignites and it pushes things forwards. It's really big and warm and visual, and I want responses that I can see, that are visually obvious to me, and that are that fill me with that kind of warmth of satisfaction, and also that allow me to physically do it, because again, fire is linked to drive, motivation, will. So I do like that for a lot of things, but again, it depends on what your intent is. And also like what resonates with you. Not everybody is as fiery as me. So don't feel like you have to do it that way by any means, right? It's just being creative. So the charging process should be something that allows you to really put in a lot of energy in whatever way is comfortable for you, whether that's visualization, meditation, you can use all kinds of stuff, right? Like if you really like the water, then maybe you take your sigil out and you sit by the ocean and you watch your sigil. You put your sigil in front of your face while you can also look at the ocean, and then you visualize like the tide bringing in the thing you want and taking away the stuff that is in your path that's hindering you, right? Maybe that's a way that you can charge it and then activate it by throwing it into the ocean. Again, if you've written the sigil on something that can be thrown into the ocean, right? Like you could write it on a rock, for example, and then throw that into the ocean. Actually, that would be a cool idea. If you have a big rock and you have like a non-toxic water-soluble marker or something, and you could draw your sigil and then throw it into the ocean, and then the ocean eroding that sigil would be the activation process for you. So yeah. So that's typically how you do it. Faye says, this is so heckin' cool. Thanks, I'm glad you like it. And Curry Star, the refocusing of the camera is making the explanation cooler. Oh, thank you, I didn't even realize that was happening. That's just my inability to control the camera, or is it? Synchronicity. I'm so excited to work with the Nameless One on a whole new level. Thank you for entertaining this. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I love sigil magic, and in the grimoire too, I have like a whole write-up on how, basically just exactly what I showed you, how I go and do sigils and stuff. And one of the base tenets of this kind of magic is to experiment and to be open to your own creative abilities and inspirations. So, like do a bunch of research, look at things on the internet, see what's been done, and then try to kind of do your own thing with it. How do you make it like resonate with you specifically? That's always how I've engaged with my magical practice, is you basically just do a lot of research and you think about it, you think about the underpinning logics of the philosophy, and then do something that really resonates with you, that puts your own personal twist or spin on it. For example, like the little clockwise versus counterclockwise thing that I did, like it's very common in Wiccan circles. They say, do things 3 times, or sometimes they'll say like, oh yes, if you stir and this is not this part, that part is Wiccan, but this part is just general, like, I don't know, folklore stuff. If you stir things clockwise, that's bringing things into you. And if you stir things counterclockwise, that's banishing something away from you. So keep that in mind. Like if you're making coffee and you put honey in it, the honey can literally be symbolic for sweetness and for health and for goodness and for collaboration. The coffee is symbolic for energy, right? For a motivation, for drive, for the ability to do something. So when you stir your coffee in the morning, you can stir it clockwise. You say, I'm bringing into myself a sweetness and like a desire to do things that are good and that are healthy and that are, that add sweetness, bring joy joy into my life while still staying like motivated and encouraged to do those things, you know, stuff like that. Like literally magic is everywhere. We just take it for granted. It's a very simple act of like being mindful, understanding what it is that you're actually interacting with. When you're interacting with coffee, this is a magical plant. It's a magical plant that grew in the earth that someone else harvested and picked for you to enjoy, that merchants then brought to your doorstep. A ton of work went into getting you this coffee. And what does coffee do? It literally energizes you. And so when you do that, when you think about things really mindfully that way, and then you think, okay, this isn't just my morning cup of coffee. This is a spell that I am using to energize myself so that I can focus, right? And then let's say you can do that with anything, literally anything, you know, for example, oatmeal, you're making oatmeal. Okay, well, oats are really important, fundamental, food staples for early society. They're things that keep your animals fed, that keep your house, you know, in order, that make fill your belly. So they oftentimes will symbolize like wealth and not like sustainability, like saving the planet, but like sustainability is in like you can survive and sustain yourself through the winter or other hardships or whatever. Being able to feed yourself and care for yourself. So there, and then honey is about, again, collaboration and productivity because bees make honey and they're awesome. Also about sweetness because literally it's sweet. So doing things that are good, sweet, that feel good. Cinnamon is amazing for raising vibrational stuff, like spiritual vibrations, for like banishing negativity, for bringing in warmth. Again, it's often used to season things that we consider like wintertime indulgences and beverages because you want to bring that warmth in through the winter. So all of these different things have like very obvious and very logical roots as far as like the folklore and the symbolism. And you put them all together in a meaningful way, and you can turn your morning oatmeal into a magical spell to keep you going and healthy and sustain your motivation and your desire to do whatever it is you're going to do. So, you know, it's like anything, like anything can be magic because you are magical, because words and because thoughts are magic. Numbers are magic, right? The fact that plants bloom and that they bear fruit is magical. We just, you know, take it for granted because we are magical. It's sort of like, you know, my dog cannot talk, and I know that there are times when she really wants to, right? She really wants to be able to communicate with me in this very specific language that I'm using, but she does not have that kind of magic. She is magic. She's my magic puppy, but she has a different type of magic, right? I cannot smell things that are in like 5 rooms over, but she can. You know, I can't hear super amazing into the next room, or like I can, you know, if you call for me and I'm all the way down the street, I won't hear you, but she can. So every entity in life, in the universe, is bestowed with certain magical properties, and it's just about figuring out what those properties are and then positioning yourself and your desire and your interaction with them in a way that facilitates a desire you want, and literally that's magic. So people are magical because they can create these really complicated symbolic things like speech, like number and speech and words. That's an amazing gift that not everybody has. And it enables us to think abstractly into the future, which again, not everybody has. And I say everybody is including our non-human people friends, such as Miss Magick and whatever else, you know, the bird in the trees and the worms in the earth. Like they all have abilities, but they're not all the same. So being able to understand like what is my ability and how can it interact with this other creature's ability, that's literally is compiling that testimony, is creating magic, right? Is getting as much energy, as much stuff as you can that all kind of corresponds to what you're trying to do, and then focus that energy on your intent, your desire, on what your spiritual path is or whatever, right? So that's my dissertation on my personal magical philosophy. So congratulations, you are magic. You are a magical thing, but not as magical as my puppy, Miss Magick. Not as magical as Miss Magick. Yeah, because she's the most magical. Yeah, I know. Anyway, so yeah. I love that your dog's name is Magic. Yes, we call her Miss Magick. Thank you. And I love the thought of eating sigils. Oh, totally. If you're a baker, yeah, 100%. Like do some frosting. Oh, make the frosting the color that sympathizes with your intent. Let's say you wanted to get motivated. Maybe you do like red frosting, and then maybe you do like, I don't know, like yellow, like sigil and like frosting in it. You could totally do that and then eat your cupcake and then be like, yeah, I'm pumped. This is my motivational cupcake or whatever. They even have like food dye markers and stuff that you can use. So Eating sigils is fantastic, particularly if you want to embody a thing. I mean, what a great way to symbolically say to yourself, I want to embody something like courage, like motivation, like truth, like goodness, whatever, like knowledge, than to physically eat a symbol of that thing. I mean, literally, it's what Christians use when they eat the body of Christ, right? The cracker and the wine thing, the blood and the body of Christ. It's symbolic because you're trying to embody, ideally, the virtues of Christ, like his heart, his blood, right? We want to be like him. That's what you're supposed to be doing when you do that stuff. It's not always what they do, but whatever, that's a different topic. So like, yeah, it's like those kinds of things are meaningful. They know they're meaningful. That's why we've been doing them for thousands of years in different ways and different, you know, different skins, different like, what do you say? Different, I meant skins like in video games, like you can have a different skin for a different character. And it's like, that's how I meant that word. But yeah, different ways, different places, different flavors, right? But that's essentially what are doing, have been doing, have always been doing. So yeah, so there's all kinds of different ways you can do it. You can also write the sigil on a bay leaf in like food color markers and then put it in a soup. All of the ingredients of your soup have a magical property. And then yeah, so it's a great way to embody something. Obviously, I would not do that if you were trying to make a sigil to get rid of something, because you wouldn't want to eat it if you wanted to get rid of it. I guess there is the process after eating, but you know, I would do something that you like throw away. Or I have this story. One time I was so mad. I was having this problem shipping something from another country, and I was dealing with like all these different questions and these different customs thing, and I could not figure out why. And I was so mad. So I did the sigil for getting my thing quickly and not having to deal with these customs people anymore. And I literally spit on the sigil and then threw it and flushed it down the toilet. And literally the next day it shipped out and it came and it was fine. But I was like, I'm done dealing with this. I want it now. I don't want it anymore. So I literally just was like, stop talking to me about this. But it worked. I don't know. Coincidence maybe, but it made me feel powerful. And I don't know. I think it works. I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and just assume that if you're listening to me, you have at least some amount of curiosity to go try it yourself. But, you know, it doesn't always work, but it works a lot. It works a lot. I have to say, I think the efficacy rate of sigils is pretty good. Like, I mean, be realistic, and also like write a sigil and then put yourself in the position to make it happen. It's the same as if you're taking medicine. Like you wouldn't, for example, necessarily take Tylenol for a headache and then go listen to like a rock concert and bang your head against the wall and like, you know, do all that kind of stuff, right? Because if you're trying to get rid of the headache, you take the Tylenol and then you put yourself in a restful environment, in a quiet, restful environment, because you want to get rid of the headache. And sigils are the same way, like, and because your thoughts and your words and your actions are also little mini spells that are firing off all of the time. And you don't want to cast a spell for one thing and then immediately negate it with your actions and your words. So it's part of that, right? It's like how they say, you know, it's a part of health is good diet and exercise. So if you're trying to be healthy, you do other things and also continue doing those base mundane things, right? For example, you wouldn't make a sigil to like be healthy and then go eat a bunch of Halloween candy. That would be immediately contradicting that intention. So don't do that. Maybe it'll help a little, but like, I mean, how much better would it be if you moved in alignment with that intention that you just set out? So let's see. Faye also says, I've been playing with the thought of making sigil wax seals. Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, they'd have to be pretty small, but that just feels so neat to me. That could be super neat. I also am a believer of like, you can make, and this is what I've done with the Nameless One sigils. You can make a sigil intentionally a bit vague to get yourself some wiggle room and just have like an idea. For example, you can make a sigil about success. And then like, let's say you did a little simple sigil for just the word success. And then every time you made that into a wax seal, and every time you stamped that wax seal, you visualized the specific kind of success you wanted as you were doing that. I think that would work. I think that would be fine. And that's kind of what I did with the Nameless One. I tried to make all of these sigils that were specific enough to be useful and very obvious in specific ways, but open enough that you could insert your specific situations into it as you were doing them. So I definitely think that's possible. And then also if you do want something that's super specific, you should probably remake a sigil for it, but you can also build off of current sigils that you have. So, you know, also dual casting sigils is a thing. Like, for example, I'll just get out the Nameless One because now we're talking about the Nameless One a bit. Let's see, here's one that I've done a couple different times. I'm gonna find these cards first. Miss Magick, what are you getting into? What are you doing? Here we go. Come here, Miss Magick. Come here. What are you doing? You mischievous puppy. What are you doing? She's getting into something, but I don't know the nature of what it is. I'll check in a minute. I don't think there's anything out that she could really get in trouble with. Just, I don't know. She always finds something, though. That's the thing about magic. It's so hard to control. Oh, but that is actually seriously a thing about magic. You should be careful when you do sigil magic and stuff, because you might get exactly what you're asking for, but in ways that maybe you don't necessarily want or hadn't thought of. So sometimes people like to add things like, oh, but harm none, or, you know, never mind, right? That's the kind of wicked idea of going like, you know, be mine and harm none, so mote it be. It's like, if it harms somebody, never mind, I don't want it, right? But you also have to be careful even with that, because here's the deal. If you're making a sigil to get a promotion at work, you getting that promotion and means somebody else doesn't get it, which means technically that's harming them. So it's nuanced, right? It's nuanced. Obviously, you don't want harm to befall anyone, but you also don't want your own success to be limited. So if you're, you know, doing a sigil to get something that someone else also wants, then it becomes a little bit less black and white. So just be mindful of that kind of stuff. The way that you, much like when you read tarot cards, your question, the way you word your question really matters. The way that you approach the cards matter. And it's the same with sigils. The way that you word your affirmation matters. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, so this is a sigil for protecting yourself and your loved ones, and this is a sigil for health. So during the COVID pandemic, I literally would write this sigil on one piece of paper, and then on the back, I would write this sigil, and then I would dual cast it, and I would think about both, and I would think about specifically my family is protected from disease, they are healthy, everything is fine, like they're, you know, physically are healthy, they're protected, all that. So dual casting sigils is something that you can do. You can literally make like a series of complicated interconnected sigils on one piece of paper and then burn that, for example, as like a bigger spell. If I was going to do that, I would also perhaps maybe put like crystals that corresponded with my need or desire around it. I'd maybe decorate it with some, maybe offer to a planetary god or goddess, maybe position the astrology chart to be in my favor, right? Because like the more things you do, the more energy you have behind your sigil. Everything matters. Just saying something is birthing a possibility into existence, which is also why you want to be careful about how you talk about yourself, which I'm having trouble right now because things have been difficult, but things can be improved, right? Because you want to focus on things can be improved and not, you know, but it's hard and it's a practice. So we keep trying. That's the point, right? Magick, are you eating my shoes? Hold on. Oh, you're eating Leo's toy. Don't eat that. He's going to be so mad at you. Yeah, I know. You're so cute. Ha ha ha. It's so funny. Okay, sorry. My dog was eating my 6-year-old's Hot Wheel set, his little toy car thing. But it's fine. It's too big for her to get in trouble with, but he's going to get mad if he finds all these little chew marks on it. So genie rules. Yeah, I would say they're genie rules, but it's not quite as malefic as a lot of those genie stories are. Sigils are not trying to fuck you over. Do you know what I mean? It's just that the idea is they give you what you want. And if you ask for what you want, but it's not what you need, or you ask for what you want in a way that suggests, you know, not what you want, then that's a possibility. I call that sigil confusion. If you can confuse your sigil, right? They can be a little literal. They can also be poetic, but you have to be like mindful of that. You have to be careful of that because it's, you know, it's a thing. So yes, dual casting sigils is a possibility. You can build an entire ritual around it is also totally a thing you could do. You know, so whatever you're comfortable doing. And you can, you know, ask for the aid of any god or goddess or spiritual entity or ancestor that you think would be on your side. You know, whatever you're subscribing to already, you can overlay onto the sigil. because it's really you're interacting with yourself. You're interacting with the part of you that is divine, that has access to the divine, that can talk immediately to the greater universe and not have to go through a priest or I don't know, or some middleman, right? Like when you make a sigil, you're talking to yourself. You're talking to your higher self, your divine self, the part of you that can act as your own advocate into the cosmos, into the effect of everything. When I made the Nameless One, I had a person email me and be like, okay, so like, who is the Nameless One? Like, who are we, saying is getting more powerful, and who are we, like, because in literally the sigil, the back of this sigil means this. That was what I distilled into that. It says, every time the sigil is seen, more power do the nameless glean. By the might of land, wind, flame, and sea, to powers untold I hold the key. As I have willed, so shall it be. And so someone was like, hey, like, I'm uncomfortable declaring allegiance to like an entity that I don't even know. And I was like, well, you do know that entity. That entity is literally you. And it's normal to be afraid, because a lot of the times people are afraid of their own power. People are afraid of what they're capable of what they actually can do. And, we're taught to fear that. Literally, systematically, from day one, we are taught to fear our own abilities, our own independence, right? And for some reason, sometimes, in some situations, that's a good thing. Like when your mom says, hey, don't turn on the stove, you might hurt yourself. That's a restriction because they're trying to protect you. And in certain ways, and what the church and other religious institutions are supposed to do, is they're supposed to guide you to your own power and divinity in a way that is kind and benefic and that benefits from the wisdom of tradition, while still enabling you to access the divine, not keeping you from it, not removing you from your own spiritual wisdoms. Literally, there are passages in the Bible that talk about that, right? You're not supposed to be giving power to priests and politicians and God knows who else, right? It's your power and your ability to access God or goddesses or planets or divinity, cosmos, whatever, whoever you want to say is responsible for that. Anyway, that's a big thing it's one of my biggest things just in general, right? Is that you have the ability to advocate for yourself on your spiritual path. You have power. And institutions at large are very invested in keeping you from that and have been since the dawn of time. And that's not to say every institution or every tradition or every leader, spiritual or otherwise, is invested in keeping you from your power. I argue that a good leader, a good religious leader, or spiritual, political, or otherwise, is trying to give you your power back in a way that is safe and steady and oftentimes comes with learning and initiation, right? Those things can be good, but the difference between guardian and gatekeeper is not always obvious. And so you have to be very critical. You have to always be your own advocate, right? Is this good for you? Is this good for your spiritual, emotional, mental body? Right? Because that's what you're in control of. You are the sovereign leader of yourself. And as the leader of yourself, it is your duty to protect yourself. So, just as an aside, that got a little bit serious, but that is my philosophical belief. So, you have to be asking yourself, is this person trying to empower me, or are they trying to take my power away from me? That's a really important distinction, because that can happen anywhere, in any faith, at any time. So you just have to be vigilant. Faye says, I tend to add, if it is meant for me, or if it is on our path, with the intent of not forcing outcomes. Yeah, I mean, it's an art, right? Because you want to be balanced enough. Like, it could be that something even better could happen. So you don't want to limit yourself unintentionally by saying, like, it needs to be exactly this. Because, first of all, exactly that could be impossible. It could be bad for you. It could be not as good as what could have happened otherwise. So it's definitely a balancing act. You want to make it specific enough so that you get the results you want, but not so strangled specific that it's like, you're creating the situation where it can only happen one way, and that way just either isn't possible or isn't ideal, actually. So, I would say that if you're doing things on what is sometimes called or referred to as the crooked path, right, as opposed to the straight and narrow of Christianity, sometimes you have to be willing to be you have to be mentally flexible, right? You have to hold the truth of multiple conflicting truths simultaneously at the same time. You have to be really invested and also not invested at all. It's definitely takes, and that's why we call it a practice, right? A spiritual practice, because it just, that's what it is. It takes practice. You keep trying and trying. You get more data, more information, alter it a bit here, change it a bit there, and then you keep trying it again. So, on the one hand, like, yeah, maybe don't like jump off the deep end. And the one thing you have to be careful about is like your mind literally impacts reality. It impacts the way that you interact with reality, what you do with it, what you make of it, how you see it. So if you start messing around with angels and demons that you have mixed feelings about, like the ability for that to turn into a thought form that torments you is really high. I think it's why you can have some people have like really good positive protective experiences using the pentagram, for example, which by the way is like an ancient S symbol, so much older than any, whatever. It's not a devil thing, but whatever. If you come to the pentagram and you see a devil thing, you probably are going to get a devil thing. If you come to the pentagram and you see an ancient symbol of protection that mirrors the path of Mercury or Venus, or makes this nice symmetry and has all these different elemental cues and is more rooted into like natural magic, then that's probably what you get, is a protective symbol of natural magic. So your perspective literally matters because we're interacting with what we're calling out for, right? It's as above, so below. If you ask for a punch in the face, you're going to get one, or at least you're more likely to get one. If you ask for help, you're more likely to get help. So the way that you approach things, it matters. Is all I'm saying. And that's when people say like, be careful, it's dangerous. That's mostly, I think, what they mean. Because you're already experimenting with a state of mind that puts you outside of the norm, outside of the collective, stuff. And when you do that, that means there are less avenues to go to if you feel like you've messed up or you need help. And so that creates this like mental stress, right? You can like psych yourself out really easily. So you want to put yourself in a situation where you feel protected and you feel safe, and you're not going to have a bad trip, right? You're not going to have a bad spiritual philosophical trip. And that's really mostly what they mean by that, because, it's easy for people to, work themselves up into unreality spiraling delusions all by themselves without any kind of like information like, oh yeah, and you can alter reality, and also there are other things out there, and there are entities that'll talk to you if you ask them to, and right, like different people have different sort of like presets on their mental capacities to deal with different or altering states of reality. So if you already know that you're, potentially influenceable or like a little bit fragile in that area, you maybe want to research protection stuff first and make sure that you feel really confident in your ability to like recenter, refocus, that you can navigate that area. And it's just the same as everything else, right? If you're going to a new country for the first time, you might want to research that country a little bit. You might want to become familiar with the customs. You might want to figure out how to ask for help in that language. You might want to, come up with some contingency plans in case things don't go the way that you expected. You don't have to do that, but if you do that and it makes you feel more secure, it's probably like a nicer trip overall, because you'll have like, a plan basically. So just those kinds of things to keep in mind. It doesn't have to be scary, but if you're somebody who's easily scared, it's easy to turn it into something like that. It doesn't have to be bad, doesn't have to be malefic. But bad malefic stuff exists in all corners and all things. Oh, Magic. She just got the markers and she spilled them everywhere. Hold on one second. Miss Magick, come here. Come here. Come on. Come on. Thank you. Okay, I locked her in my room so she can't eat the colored pencils that she spilled. Those are not toys, Miss Magick. Those are not toys. No, they're not. Don't look at me like you've never done anything wrong in your whole life. God. Anyway, so I think we're about done. If you guys have any more questions or any things that you want to ask or anything, I'm going to read the comments that I missed. I think I mentioned about the accidental magical sucker punch of asking for help making the changes I needed to make and then getting exactly what I asked for in what seems like a very Mars way. Yeah, well, that's a whole nother thing. And then because I didn't know what changes I needed, but I sure am finding out. Yeah, ask and you shall receive. It has been said, and I do believe it's true. This is the other thing. So in astrology, malefics are malefic because they sometimes will do things that are uncomfortable, but they are also sometimes the force that you need to actually get stuff done. Like, for example, Venus and Jupiter are much more recreational and optional. They're much more like, oh yeah, if you like this, but if not, that's cool. Or like, oh, this is nice, this could feel good. Or here you go, here's a gift, take it or don't, that's fine. Mars is like, bam, this is happening. You know, Mars is like, I'm going to push you into the deep end, sink or swim, bitch, here we go. Right? Like, you can have what you want, but you have to fight for it. Right? You know, you want my belt, take it. You know, that kind of energy. Versus Saturn is like, oh, you want this? Okay, well, if you still feel that way after all of these different obstacles and this delayed gratification and all of the restrictions and all of the setbacks and all of the boundaries and all of the isolation it makes you feel, maybe. You know what I mean? If you prove that you're responsible and worthy, maybe we'll work something out. Let's see how you do, right? Those are the kinds of ways that malefics give gifts if they're so inclined at all. And so that kind of feels uncomfortable. It's a lot, you know. Magic. Stop it. I'm talking. She so wants to play right now. Yeah, I know. Shh. Shh. Be nice. Anyway. So malefics can absolutely get things done, and they can even get things done in your favor, and it kind of depends where they are in the sky and where they are in your chart. But even when they do that, the way that they do it doesn't always feel good. It doesn't feel good to have to fight, but it feels good to finally win. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of energy. Like, I was just talking to my sister because we were really thinking about this whole, you know, Mars and Scorpio stellium of it all. And one of the things that I was saying was like, it doesn't have to be bad, but it won't be comfortable. It's sort of like how to be born, you have to burst through your mother's body, and it hurts. It hurts. The mom, it probably hurts you, even though you don't remember. It's traumatic, the experience of being born. It's like a rush of blood and tearing flesh. It's gory. It's very martial. But the victory for that is every experience you get to have as an individual manifest in the physical world. Magic, relax. Do you just want to be on camera? Do you just want to say hi? You're so cute. Stop barking. I shouldn't pet her when she barks. That's reinforcing the wrong thing. Anyway, so yeah, or like how, you know, a chicken has to butt its head up against a hard barrier in order to be birthed. Like, that hurts, but it also is the force required to do it. Or how a seed has to burst through the crust of the earth. Probably hurts the earth, probably hurts the seed, but at the end of the day, the seed has a right to assert itself and its life on this planet. As a plant, as the plant it was always destined to be. So those are the energies of malefics. It, you know, hurts, delays, isolation, struggle, hardship, violence, responsibility, restriction. All of those things can be bad and they can be good. They can also get you what you want, or they can prevent you from getting what you want. In either case, they don't really feel as good as Jupiter, which is like optimism and, you know, miracles and mercy and faith and goodwill, or Venus, which is like pleasure and harmony and love, and fun. So, you know, it's like the difference between, and I have seen this a lot too, like sometimes Jupiter and Venus give you things and you take it for granted because you didn't work for it. And maybe this is me being ruled by malefics, but I do think there's literally nothing better than having fought really, really hard for something and then finally getting it. And that maybe is a Saturn ruled chart thing to say, I don't know. But finally overcoming obstacles, it's like, it feels so much more gratifying than just like somebody gives it to you, you know? Although I will say I wouldn't turn it down. Justice for Magic. I had a tarot question, but I've been trying to figure out how to phrase it this entire time. Well, no worries. I'm going to be doing another Patreon exclusive live, which you are invited to on the 30th. And I'm doing it on the 30th because the 31st is the last Friday of the month. I normally do my Patreon lives the last Friday of every month at 10 o'clock at night, and the first Wednesday of every month at 10 o'clock in the morning. But I missed the first because the first Wednesday was literally the first of the month, and I just was doing horoscopes. And the end of the month is going to be Halloween, which is also my wedding anniversary, and I want to take my kids trick-or-treating, so I won't be able to do it then. So my next Patreon live is going to be the 30th, which is a Thursday the 30th at 10 o'clock at night Pacific time, and you can come and ask any questions you have then. And then the one after that will be the first Wednesday of next month in November, which will be the 5th, which will be Wednesday the 5th November at 10 o'clock in the morning. So save your questions for me then, or, you know, Magic. Or yeah. I'm also kind of thinking about doing, I'm not sure. I'm sort of thinking maybe I'll add a Patreon exclusive tier where I do like one-on-one consultations with people, either and astrological or tarot. So you could like, you know, sit down with me once a month over like a Zoom call or something, or a Discord call. And I can like look at your chart, and I can do tarot readings with your chart in mind specifically, and like go to specific questions. I think it would be really cool to set up like a select base of clients to do that with. Oh my gosh, Magic, hush. Just because then you can like really come to know a chart like very intimately and like have updates and stuff like that. So anyway, I don't know. I'm thinking about adding a Patreon tier that does that for around $55 or maybe $66 a month. I'm not sure. Most tarot readings, I've seen a lot of tarot readings that for like, you know, 30 minutes that are like over $100. I've also seen astrological consultations. Most of them are about 30 minutes long for like 150, something around there. So I think it's just like, to bring it to a monthly basis should be less expensive because, you know, it's the whole subscription thing basically. I just don't know how chaotic that would be for my schedule. Magic, come here. What are you doing? Stop barking. Stop barking. Everybody want to see Miss Magick? There you go. That's her face. You're so cute. Careful. Anyway. Okay, so I gotta go, but I think I'm gonna add that Patreon tier sometime. I don't know. I think it would be fun. So you could also do that, or you could just wait until next the Thursday. And this will be fun because we get to do it through Jupiter's Day. So we get to talk to Jupiter on Thursday the 30th. Wait, I didn't see. Okay, hold on. I'll show you. Miss Magick, come here. There's Miss Magick. Hi, Magic. Yeah, hi. She wants to play really bad. She wants to play so bad. I know. Oh, you want to play so bad. Oh, you just want to get out of here. Okay, you're welcome. All right, so I'll see you guys later. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. Patreon exclusive puppy cam. Right, exactly. All right, bye, guys.